Hello, everybody. Today, I'd like to share my thoughts on current dividend stock plays for March 2022. And what a way to start my new series of videos on investing. 2 episodes in, and the world is faced with another terrible crisis right on the heels of the COVID-19 pandemic. So the question is, what does war in Ukraine mean for your long-term investments? Well, we don't know yet, but you're probably thinking, what's the worst that could happen if the war spreads and things escalate out of control? Will your best stock plays go to zero? Well, the answer to that question is yeah, maybe, but that would mean a very large European war with nuclear weapons, in my opinion. And I'm going out on a limb here and say that doesn't happen, I think. Anyway, just saying, if you watch my first video, I actually predicted something like this might happen. I even turned half of my net worth into cash before all of this went down because I was fearful of the gathering storm in Eastern Europe and the associated market volatility. Now, I never would have believed Russia would attempt to invade all of Ukraine, and I thought it would be like a temporary occupation of Donbass or Luhansk or something like that. So in many respects, I had a head in sand mindset towards the potential severity of the situation. Even though I took some precautions with my investments, it's not like I was able to parlay these moves into hugely profitable transactions that I suspect some people were able to do. Like, for example, if I just thrown all of my freed up money into oil commodity exchange traded funds at the outbreak of the invasion, I'd probably be a rich man talking to you today, but it didn't happen. And why not? Well, I'm supposed to be some kind of authority in investing in these kinds of things, right? Not really. I'm just the guy who understands that in times like these, dividend paying stocks are still the best things, the safest things you'd ever want to hold on to during the worst of times. And make no mistake, these are the worst of times for millions of people around the world. So what did I do and what did I learn? Well, I didn't jump into oil companies or commodities. I was too stunned by all of this to make these kind of bold moves, honestly. I stuck to my plan, though, as described in my first video. I locked in profits and rebought price dips. So I'll explain by giving you just one example. So one position I held right before the war started was in Chemtrade Logistics. Chemtrade is CHE.UN for me on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And you really can't mention Canadian monthly dividend stock plays without mentioning Chemtrade Logistics, because for the past 10 years or so, it has consistently been a huge moneymaker and a generous dividend payer. So they produce and transport chemicals used in water purification, among other things. And they make millions of dollars every quarter. So I would say CHE would have to be on any top 10 Canadian stock list. Anyway, last month I held 411 shares of it. My average price per share was $6.94. So this meant the value of the position was worth $2,853.61. And then just prior to the outbreak of the Ukrainian war, the share price had risen to $7.49 per share. And I wanted to protect those gains, so I sold. And the final value of the position was $3,078.39. So I banked plus $224.78 for the sale. And also, by the way, for about 6 months, I also got $20.55 every month just for holding that amount of Chemtrade Logistics, because it paid out, I think it's 5 cents per share, and it's towards the end of every month they distribute the dividend, I believe. So at that price point, you would get an 8% annual return on any investment in CHE.UN. So was that a good play? Well, good enough, I suppose. I made money. I secured profit from a long-term investment that I believe might pull back significantly in a wartime environment. And in 2 months now, I made over $700 by dip trading monthly dividend plays. And I banked their distributions too, like the whole time I held them. But guess what? These companies are so solid, it seems not even a conventional war in the Ukraine can topple these things. For example, Chemtrade Logistics is now up to $8.11 per share. So it's getting even stronger. And I didn't even need to sell it, but whatever. The problem now is if you buy it at its current price, your annual return would be 7.3%. Whereas when I held it, I got an 8% return. So what are the good plays now? Well, let's start with the obvious. Oil and gas plays like Keyera and things like PPL, which is Pembina Pipeline, etc. These companies, I'm pretty sure, aren't going anywhere. The problem I have with them, and it's not really a problem, but the share prices are relatively high and their distributions are around 5 to 6% per year. And there are way better deals out there that I can see. So here are some examples of what I'm talking about that I'm holding now and I'm maybe adding to, depending on what happens. And I'll just mention four. None of these plays seems to be threatened by the current Ukrainian situation, as far as I can tell. All of the following pay out monthly at the following annual rates. So the first one is TNT, the stock symbol, and it's True North Commercial REIT. At the time of making this video, it was at 8.7% annual return. Then you have BK, which is Canadian Bank Corp. And this is a mutual fund, so it's different every month what they distribute. However, the annual average looks to be about 12%, and that's the best deal that I could find overall. And then you have BRE, which is Bridgemark Real Estate Services. Their annual return is 8.3%. And then lastly, TF, which is Timber Creek Financial. This is a money lender for real estate. It's another cheaper stock sitting at 7.5% annual return at its current share price. So these are a few options that I'll be watching moving forward. But I don't even know if I'm going to be buying a lot anymore soon, especially if things continue to get worse and worse, which it looks like they might. And I'm not playing with anything that doesn't pay a dividend, that's for sure. And I wouldn't even consider swing or day trading without a stop loss either. So my best advice is just to be careful. I'm actually going to start hoarding cash. Thankfully, in my job, we get paid every week. So that's going to be helpful. So for me, it'll be wads of cash money and rolls of toilet paper, I guess, which could wind up being even more valuable than paper money when and if things really kick off between NATO and Russia. So I'd like to ask you, what's your plan? What's your worst case scenario if everything goes bad? Mine, without being cavalier about war and its terrible effects on people, I'll just cash out my money and buy a V8 with a Wyland supercharger. And I'm going to hit the road and spend whatever time is left scavenging for gasoline, like in George Miller's Mad Max movies. And I guess I won't have to worry about paying insurance in a post-apocalyptic world either. In the meantime, let's hope for an end to all the madness. And who knows, maybe we'll even make it to a third episode of this. So stay tuned and thanks for watching.